Hey schoolers! So as you can see, obviously I'm moving as per usual because I just don't stop. I hope that you guys appreciate that. So right now I'm actually in process of taking my rabbits to the processor. But what I wanted to touch base on with you guys, again, thank you so much for being here as part of the community. I'm really hoping that you're finding value in this. I will be pushing the nutrition course to finish up, like I just discussed earlier. And now I also would like to talk a little about the upcoming courses. So if you're a VIP member, you'll have auto access to all upcoming courses. And as soon as the nutrition class is done and polished, I'm going to be starting on the genetics course. And the genetics course is hand in hand with the book that I'm going to be publishing in the new year. I've been working on this book for the past 2 years. It is basically a New Zealand based, because I mainly use New Zealand's as the base rabbit for the discussion of the book. The first part includes the entire history of the breed, from the New Zealand Reds, the initial rabbits that were brought over from New Zealand, and then also combined and created in California. So the original history of the New Zealand is actually pretty interesting, because there was rabbits that were imported from New Zealand, but the breed itself was created and refined in California and in Indiana simultaneously, although mainly in California. So it covers the entire history of how the original breed developed, what breeds were used, what breeds that no longer exist were used to kind of create the foundational stock of the New Zealand Reds, how that developed into New Zealand Whites, and how that created, and what other breeds were used in creating New Zealand Whites. And then also I interviewed some other breeders that created the other varieties and what breeds were used to create those varieties also. So there's a complete history of the New Zealand at the beginning. There's also discussion on breeding for type, what is recommended and not recommended. My philosophy on breeding is you can use anything with anything, just understand the risks. And there are some things that explain why I recommend not doing certain crosses versus other crosses, why some are safer than others. At the end of the day, if you want to breed a silver fox into your New Zealand lines, it's your prerogative. If you want to breed a Brevin into your lines, it's your prerogative, but I don't recommend it. But that also goes through reasoning why certain things probably should be very cautiously done because of how long it takes to be able to identify pure. The book does also cover generational breeding and test breeding, which is nice. And then there's an entire section that breaks down the genetics. And the genetics section is broken down in such a way to make it understandable. So it starts on your base level explaining what each gene and allele does. And then it goes on into the deeper understanding of the actual protein chains for that, if you do want to go a little bit deeper into the why behind how colors work. And the nice thing about the book is, similar to the nutrition course, everything is backed up by actual studies. So everything goes back to the actual studies and links to the papers, so you can actually read them yourself, which is great, because I really think that giving people the tools they need to do the deeper research is important. I then go into type, broke down with my friend who's a former judge, as well as a few other judges and people that evaluate the rabbits, into what we're looking for certain types, why we're looking for things for certain types, and of course that I'm a graphic designer, so everything is going to be fully illustrated. Eventually the nutrition course is also going to be fully illustrated. I don't like just doing blank slides, but for time constraints right now I'm just trying to get the information out. So the book, again, full color illustrations for examples of all the color, for examples of good type, bad type. And then it goes down and does a breakdown into, if you're going to be crossing sports in or crossing other breeds in, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, why you should do something, or why maybe you should consider not doing something. And again, like I said, end of the day, you can cross anything you want into a rabbit, because there's no such thing as a purebred rabbit, to be honest. There's only, does it meet the SOP or does it not meet the SOP? So, that being said, that's what the book is going to be covering. It's going to be very, very in-depth. I think it's currently about 120 pages long, and I'm going to finish polishing and refining that for release. I believe it's going to be available for direct buy off of Amazon. My sister had recommended, because she's published before. But that's what you're looking forward to. The genetics class is going to be kind of based around the structure that the book is, except the genetics class is going to be broader, and I'm probably going to be using my Sanita project for examples for the genetics class. So while there are certain things that are recommended or not recommended with the New Zealands, there's different things that are recommended and not recommended with the Sanita, and the same thing with like a Harlequin. So different breeds of rabbits will have different recommendations for certain genes coming in or not, or being kept out of a line. And I will try to go into explanation and breaking down of that. And there's also going to be a type and body section, so it's not going to be purely color, although we'll be starting with color because color is a little bit easier to see because you can see color a lot faster than certain other traits. And then there's also discussions in the color groups where we have things like, why broken to broken is a cautious breeding, and why that can cause other problems. And I'm also doing breakdowns and pulling the studies that show other close gene markers and gene crossover, because there were some very interesting things that I came across. Also, we're not just covering the main 5 alleles that cover color. I'm going to be covering the main 5 plus your broken genes, so your English spot genes, your Vienna genes, your wideband genes, your Dutch genes, your Lutino genes. So there's going to be a much broader discussion on stuff. And after an interesting conversation, I'll be with another person who's working on the Lutino Holland Lops. She had brought up some interesting points about the European Lutinos and how that gene interacts with other colors, because I had only covered it based on the Netherland dwarf SOP, which only allows for orange and red. And so because it only allows for orange and red, I hadn't considered how it behaves with other genetics. And she actually had expanded what her observations had been, how it behaves with like opal or self colors, which was really interesting. So I'm going to be going back, having some more conversations and expanding the Lutino section. So, but that's what we're looking at in the books, is a more well-rounded understanding of how all the genetics work, and practical applications in breeding exercises.